You want to watch this entire build video because this setup lets you throw hundreds of frosty shurikens a minute, freeze every enemy in sight at all levels of content, have quintuple 100 stats at basically all times, and turns you into the coolest looking ice ninja that your friends, clannies, and LFG groups have ever seen in their lives. So kick back, relax, consider hitting that subscribe button if you're part of the 2/3 of viewers not yet subbed, and let's get to it. The whole thing kicks off with our melee ability, Withering Blade, a 2-charge melee ability that can ricochet twice towards nearby enemies after hitting a surface or enemy, and that applies 60 stacks of slow to all enemies hit. And these slow stacks are extremely important as well, as any enemy that is inflicted with 100 stacks of slow becomes frozen, including mini-boss tier enemies like champions. And with the help of the other two main components of this build, you'll see how we'll be firing these things off at unbelievable rates. The first of these main components is the Gambler's Dodge class ability, something everyone is most likely familiar with as the dodge that refunds your melee ability when used near enemies, perfect for obtaining a fresh Withering Blade on demand. But what truly allows you to enter an unbelievable state of non-stop rolling and non-stop shurikens is the exotic armor piece of this build, the Radiant Dance Machines. Here's how they work. When you approach enemy targets, you will be granted the multi-dodge available buff. Upon dodging with the multi-dodge available buff, you will receive the multi-dodge buff for 5 seconds, which in the simplest terms allows you to dodge infinitely. Additionally, while in possession of this buff, defeating enemies increases the duration of this buff by 5 seconds per enemy, up to a cap of 10 seconds at any given time. Meaning that if you are killing enemies non-stop, then you will have an infinite dodge available non-stop. As a result, this simple combination of Withering Blade, Gambler's Dodge, and Radiant Dance Machines allows you to execute one of the most mesmerizing ability chains in all of Destiny. And with some of the other fragments and mods we'll be adding to this build in just a moment, this loop becomes even stronger with Orb of Power Generation, Grenade Refund, Heals on Dodge, and so much more. But first, we should talk about the other slowing and freezing mechanism that we have available to us in our Dusk Field Grenade, a projectile that detonates into a frosty snow globe on impact, slowing and freezing all enemies trapped inside of it. So whilst our Withering Blade shurikens are busy slicing through every single enemy we come across, we can also use our Duskfield Grenade to zone off an alternate lane, spawn trap a pack of incoming mobs, or to quickly shut down a large group of enemy targets. And this Duskfield Grenade gets even better as well with the introduction of our first aspect, the Touch of Winter, which increases the size of the Duskfield Grenade dome and creates a small stasis crystal on impact, the importance of which you'll understand in just a moment. But before that, it is crucial that we take a look at our second aspect, Grim Harvest, which spawns stasis shards when defeating any enemy afflicted by stasis debuffs such as slow, freeze, and shatter, which is literally every single enemy as far as this build is concerned. And although these stasis shards simply grant melee energy on pickup in their base configuration, we'll be able to receive 2 additional benefits from them once we incorporate our armor mods and stasis fragments. Speaking of which, occupying the first fragment slot in this build is the Whisper of Shards, which grants a 500% bonus base grenade regeneration rate buff for 6 seconds when shattering a stasis crystal. Specifically for this build, that would be the stasis crystal that we spawn when throwing our Duskfield Grenade thanks to the Touch of Winter aspect, meaning that with these 2 additions to our build, you are basically able to refund most of your grenade every time you use your grenade. And for increased durability, we can look to fragment number 2 in the Whisper of Chains, which grants 40% bonus damage resistance when near any frozen enemy or friendly stasis crystal, which is basically always considering how many Duskfield Grenades and Withering Blades you'll be throwing with this build. Even if you find yourself in a situation where you can't get close to a frozen enemy, you can still acquire this damage resistance buff on demand thanks to your Touch of Winter Duskfield Grenade, which will spawn that friendly Stasis crystal to proc Whisper of Chains at any location and time of your choosing. Now where things really start to get interesting is in fragment slot number 3 with the Whisper of Hedrons, which upon freezing an enemy target grants you a boatload of stat boosts for 11 seconds. Specifically, you receive a 60 stat increase to your mobility, resilience, and recovery, a 30 stat increase to your weapon's stability, a 15 stat increase to your weapon's aim assist, and a 20 stat increase to your weapon's airborne effectiveness. And considering how often you are slinging snow globe grenades and freezing stars, this Whisper of Hedrons buff has pretty much infinite uptime, meaning that you are able to completely ignore having to put any stat points past 40 into your top 3 stats to hit 100 on all 3, allowing you to focus your armor mod stat boosts entirely on things like discipline and intellect to have what is effectively a quintuple 100 stat build. Fragment number 4 on the roster is the Whisper of Durance, which allows all slow debuffing abilities to last longer, making our Duskfield Grenade last for 9 seconds instead of 7, and our Silence and Squall Super last for 16 seconds instead of 14. The Whisper of Durance also doubles the duration of the slow debuff from our slowing abilities, making enemies in a Duskfield Grenade slowed for 4 seconds instead of 2, and enemies hit by our Withering Blades slowed for 7 seconds instead of 3.5. Finally, in the fragment department, we have the Whisper of Rhyme, which grants healing and overshields when scavenging any stasis shards, which remember we are creating from every stasis debuffed enemy kill thanks to Grim Harvest, which again, with this build, is practically every single kill. And things just keep getting better, with bonus grenade energy, lightning fast supers, and lots of healing through our armor mod setup, beginning as all hunter builds do with Reaper on the class item for Orb of Power generation on post-dodge weapon final blows. But our main method of orb generation will actually come through heavy-handed on the gloves, which generates an Orb of Power on every powered melee final blow, which, considering how many shurikens we're throwing, will be quite a few. Scavenging these orbs will be a complete breeze as well, through 2 copies of Powerful Attraction on the class item to automatically collect any nearby orbs when activating your class ability, which with Radiant Dance Machines is pretty much every single second. And with copies of Innervation and Recuperation on the boots, those Orb of Power pickups will also grant chunks of grenade energy and a sizable heal, essentially turning your dodge into a melee refunding, orb generating, grenade fueling, and HP granting ability all in one. And whilst we'll get armor charge stacks from Orb of Power scavenging, we'll also get a ton of additional armor charge stacks from elemental charge on the boots, for an increasing chance to acquire a stack of armor charge when scavenging stasis shards. These armor charge stacks will be spent through grenade kickstart on the gloves to grant us a large chunk of grenade energy on grenade cast, which when coupled with the Touch of Winter and Whisper of Shards interaction from before, will result in practically instantly refunding grenades on every throw. And having your grenade up a lot is going to be really nice with this build thanks to bolstering detonation on the gloves, which grants a chunk of class ability energy when dealing damage with a grenade every 7 seconds. And because a Duskfield Grenade lasts on the field for 9 seconds, you'll be able to proc this mod twice with just 1 grenade, which is very helpful for situations where you lose your multi-dodge Radiant Dance Machines buff and need to quickly reacquire your class ability to start it up again. You'll round out this core mod setup with things like resists on the chest, siphons, finders, and powerful friends on the helmet, and stat mods on all 5 pieces, prioritizing discipline and intellect since, as mentioned before, Whisper of Hedrons will be maxing out our top 3 stats at basically all times. Although, if you'd feel more comfortable having tier 10 resilience for a guaranteed bonus 30% damage resistance buff at all times without having to worry about proccing Hedrons, I wouldn't blame you at all. And as with all builds, I've got a Destiny item manager link along with a special little note for you down in the description, right next to those like and subscribe buttons that I would love for you to consider clicking if you've been enjoying the video so far. As for the gameplay loop of this build, it's actually quite simple. You just get next to an enemy, dodge to rev up the dance machines, and then spin around the battlefield as you send everything back into the Ice Age. I'll catch you in the live stream. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.